Is the foundation of the restoration built on a logical contradiction? Critics are claiming they found the smoking gun that proves Joseph Smith was a false prophet. They call it the Mormon Dilemma. But is this a genuine theological collapse or just a fundamental misunderstanding of how God reveals truth to mankind? Here at Faith and Reason, Grace and Sobriety, we don't run from the hard questions. My mission and hope is to approach these historical and theological challenges with a clear mind and a steady heart. We are not here for the gotcha moments. We are here for the truth that stands up to scrutiny. If you're looking for a sober, faithful, and intellectual, honest look at the restoration of the Godhead, you're in the right place. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Faith and Reason, Grace and Sobriety. I am your host, Timothy Berman, here to inspire you and encourage you and edify you as we all are pressing forward with steadfast faith through Jesus Christ, because it is He that lives through us, not that we live according to our own will and purpose. Hey, I've been on hiatus for the last week or so because I'm just getting things taken care of and ready to go, and just getting prioritization of content done and everything. But as I stated in the introduction for today's response video, we're going to look at a 6-minute, I'm going to be responding to a 6-minute video. It looks like it's a brand new video from a new YouTube channel, and they got quite the following now. And it's Armor and Ash, interesting name for the channel. However, what I'm critiquing is their 6-minute video titled The Mormon Dilemma, Joseph Smith, a False Prophet. And so the question I'm presenting to you today is the foundation of the restoration built on a logical contradiction? Because critics are often claiming that they found the proverbial smoking gun that attempts to prove Joseph Smith was really a false prophet. They call this the Mormon Dilemma, or this is becoming known as the Mormon Dilemma. This is a very, very bold claim because the Book of Mormon, according to the critics, they're claiming that the Book of Mormon teaches one version of God, while Joseph's later revelations teach something entirely different, which seems to make it impossible for both to be true at the same time. But is this a genuine theological collapse, or is it just a mere fundamental misunderstanding of how God reveals truth to mankind? Now, like I said in this recent video presentation by Armor and Ash, the argument is framed as a logical trap. What the person is attempting to do is point to passages like 2 Nephi 31:21 and Ether 3:14, arguing that these teach a Trinitarian or modalist view where the Father and the Son are the same person, or they're the same being. Then they contrast this with Doctrine and Covenants, section 130, verse 22, which describes distinct corporal personages with bodies of flesh and bone. The dilemma here then breaks down to be a very simple statement. If the Book of Mormon is true, the later teachings are false. If the later teachings are true, the Book of Mormon then, by nature, is false. They even evoke what appears to be Deuteronomy 18, claiming this doctrinal shift is the test that Joseph Smith fails. Here is what is happening, folks. It is a very powerful logic trap if you accept their premise. Now, here at Faith and Reason, Grace and Sobriety, I am not one to run from the hard questions. I believe the truth is far more nuanced than our critics want to accept and embrace. So today we're going to take a look at why the Book of Mormon wasn't just a Nicene accident. It was a targeted correction to the creedal confessions, to the creedal Christian orthodoxy, or I should say the creedal heterodoxy of later 4th century traditions and philosophies of men. And why Joseph's teachings later on clarified that this is a logical fulfillment of the restoration, not its actual undoing. Now, the critics' first error here is a classical logical fallacy of equivocation. The person is attempting to treat every instance of one God in the Book of Mormon as if it must mean the 4th century Nicene definition of one co-eternal, co-substantial, homoousios being, one being in three separate persons, because that is their presuppositional argument, their presuppositional apologetics. However, Latter day Saint scholarship and even non Latter day Saint scholarship, with philosophers like Blake Osler and others, they argue for a social Trinitarian model. This isn't about one being, it is about a unity of purpose, glory, and will. For instance, David Paulson notes the early language resonated with traditional Christianity, yet focused on the unity of mission. When Nephi says that the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost are one God in 2 Nephi 31:21, he isn't writing a metaphysical ontological treatise. Nephi is capping off a sermon on the way to be saved. Or he's capping off a sermon on the one way to be saved, to receive redemption, to receive salvation. What about the famous line in Ether 3:14, though, where Jesus says, I am the Father and the Son? Again, critics call this Trinitarian language or modalism. However, in the context, it's about divine investiture. And in fact, if you do some really good research and you're not just typically hopping on the eisegesis train, when you take the time, and this is where the Book of Mormon actually harmonizes and brings about a greater understanding of biblical texts, because it's about the divine investiture. So when we look at the Greek term for logos in John 1:1, logos implies a divine magistrate acting, and logos and theos together implies a divine magistrate acting with full authority. Christ represents the Father so perfectly that he is able to speak in his Father's name. He is the Father as the creator and the Father of our spiritual rebirth, while remaining the Son in personhood. And we see this when we go to Colossians 2:9, which tells us that the fullness of the Godhead dwelt in him bodily. He is the full expression of the Father's nature. It is not a modalist mask, it's not a Trinitarian doctrine, but Christ represents legally, logically, the Father in all things. He represents the Father. He has the authority of the Father. He has the glory of the Father. Now, let's talk about the Doctrine and Covenants, section 130, verse 22, because critics bring this up too to claim that the physical nature of God contradicts the earlier text. However, when we consider historian Richard Bushman, he notes later revelations provided a physicality and distinct personhood that clarified rather than refuted earlier descriptions. This is the principle of progressive revelation, truth revealed line upon line, precept upon precept, here, there, a little, here a little, there a little. And even non-LDS scholars like Craig Keener admit that true prophets often undergo a maturation in their understanding of the divine. Expanding a compressed truth into a detailed one isn't a contradiction. It is actual growth. Now, what the overall idea behind this video, it misapplies the test of a prophet. In Deuteronomy 18, that passage was designed to catch prophets who made failed predictions or led people to false gods like Baal worship. Using to forbid a prophet from receiving deeper light about the same God is what we call eisegesis, where it's reading a modern agenda into ancient texts. As Peter Patt and other commentators clarify, the core concern was loyalty to Yahweh, not a restriction on future revelation. The Mormon Dilemma is a manufactured logical trap. It only works if you ignore the ancient context and force a 19th century restoration into a 4th century creedal box. The truth isn't a static point in history, folks. It is a very vibrant and living expansion of light. The real dilemma belongs to the critic, Armor and Ash. So the question is, will you accept a God who continues to reveal his nature with clarity? Or do you want to stay locked in a box of human creeds that put God in a box and create and manufactures a God according to their own understanding and their image? Because if you want to understand this, go and check out my website. You can go to my website, and that website is www.timothyRberman.com. The title of the post that I just posted here with this video is about refuting and calling out the logical fallacies and providing a better and clearer understanding of what Latter-day Saint position is. Now, again, I don't speak in authority and capacity of any authority with regards to the official doctrines and teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My understanding is born out of over 30 years of apologetics, both inside and outside of the LDS faith. For 15 years, I was an apostate. And then I came back. So I have over 30 years of studying church history, philosophy, Greek, Hebrew research into those nuances and like. And so the Mormon dilemma is a manufactured trap because it only works if you're ignoring the ancient context and you're wanting to force a 19th century restoration into a 4th century creedal Christian box and understanding. The truth is not as static that are as a static point in history that our critics like to make, because it is really about a living expansion of light born out of divine revelation. And so, again, as I said, the real dilemma belongs to our critics. And so, my question is, will you accept a God who continues to reveal his nature with clarity, or are you wanting to stay locked in a box of human creeds and confessions that are not compatible with biblical truth and reality? If you want the full list of the scholarly citations and a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about, go to that website, go to the blog tab, and you'll see it. It is where I'm responding to Armor and Ashes, uh, the truth about the Mormon dilemma. And you can check out that full article. Hit the like, the share, and the notification bell. Drop your thoughts in the comment section or go to the website, read it, and then drop your thoughts in the comment section there at the website. Subscribe to Faith and Reason, Grace and Sobriety, and let's keep seeking truth together. With sobriety and grace, hopefully you are staying faithful. And until the next time, be blessed, be encouraged, be edified.